Why the Yonko must be superior to the Admirals. Throughout the series of One Piece, one of the most consistent and obvious things to me was that the Yonko were above the Admirals. Not just in power, but a number of aspects. But unfortunately, a lot of the fan base wanted to make their own narrative. They wanted to push agendas. They wanted to spew rhetoric. They want to try to write their own series and say, "Oh no, it's just your opinion." No, certain things are just factually based. Oh, well, that's just speculation. That's just theorizing. No, no. A lot of times when it comes to literature, excuse me, when it comes to story writing, there are certain base points. Folks want to say that One Piece is oversimplistic at times. Folks want to say it's deep. Sometimes things are simple. But in the simplicity, there's where profoundness comes from. And there are often layers behind why things are the way that they are, especially when you're dealing with power structures, when you're dealing with concepts such as the balance of power, which is one of the three main themes of One Piece. I don't care what anybody says. You have freedom, balance of power, and the other one escapes me at the moment. The Yonko need to be above the Admirals on all fronts. And we'll get into that in this video. What's good, y'all? You Dub back here again here in 2022. Let's get it. This video, it's been over a decade in the making. I've done videos about the Yonko in the past and such. But really after chapter 1055, 1055, which was the death nail, once again, for the Admiral fanboy agenda, which never should have been a thing. And some can say, well, Oda played it up. No, Oda has never showcased the Admirals to be anything like the Yonko. Never at all. Even from design wise. Sure, can you say they're comparable? Can they compete? Of course. We're not saying that the Admirals are weak. By saying that the Yonko are superior or they're at a different level doesn't make the Admirals trash. That's like saying an NBA, NFL player, or MLB player is absolute garbage for being in the same league with a legend. It's not. They're not. They could be all stars and whatever, but they're not the superstar MVP. They're not the Hall of Famer. They're just levels to everything in life. And it doesn't mean that pirates are all of a sudden, no, admirals are superior than 99.9999% of the world. It's just that the Yonko are literally designed by their very nature to be superior to damn near everyone, from combat and otherwise. And here's reasons why. Starting off with number one, freedom. The fact that the Yonko are to be free. Again, freedom is one of the key themes in the series of One Piece. You can look at the character of Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy. What does he want? He want to be the freest man on the sea. Goldie Roger. He gained everything. Via what? Freedom. Kaido. Yes, there was the juxtaposition of slavery and Wano or domineering, but Kaido didn't start that way. Lin Lin, she wanted to have a free nation. Yeah, there was a trade off, but Lin Lin was trying to make this utopic, idyllic society, right? You have it to where Newgate, he just wanted a family in order to do that, and as well as protect his, and provide for his homeland. In order to do that, he needed to freely roam the sea and get that money, right? Buggy, you can go into Shanks, you can go into everybody, right? You can go into all the major figures in the One Piece world when it comes to piracy. It's about freedom, which is, again, why the Shichibukai were a step below. They were inferior, except for Hawkeyes. But of course, there's always going to be an exception to the rule. And we see that two former Shichibukai became Yonko in Buggy and in Teach because those were stock that those were just tools. Those were pawn positions. They never fully wanted to be Shichibukai. You could say Law. You see, he became a 3 billion berry bounty. He never really was a Shichibukai like that. They weren't down for it. And the ones that were, they had their own ambitions and gains to get it. Boa Hancock to protect her people. Sir Crocodile, you could say he was using it. Doflamingo, it was complicated how he was using it. Gecko Moria, he was using it to his own end. So The Shichibukai position was a position, but folks overstate. Like these were just government. No, they did what they did, and a lot of them use it to their own end, which is why the Shichibukai, uh, title was abolished, thanks to I believe it was Cobra, Kinriku, and push from Admiral Fujitora Isho. The concept of freedom. The admirals follow a structure and follow orders. They're not free. They're underneath the Tenryubito, the celestial dragons, which are underneath really Imu, right? And even just in rank and file, you have the Gorosei, you have the Commander in Chief Kong, then you have the Fleet Admiral. So the admirals are below several layers of, you know, guidance dictatorship, if you will. Yonko, they're their own emperors. They run their own empires. So it's not even a comparable condition from that point alone. That was the most obvious thing to me. I'm like, guys, you having people who are literal emperors of the sea that own portions of the New World, the largest, most powerful, most dangerous sea, and whose influence creeps to the rest of the world, that are literally in competition with the world government and other nations, whether they be allied nations or other nations that are independent, like a Wano, like an Elbaf, right? Think about it. They're an empire. It's not even a competition of who has the most influence and power. And we'll get more into that in a bit. Pedigree, number two, pedigree. Again, I've already alluded to the power dynamic, but the term Yonko is of a higher prestige than the term Admiral is. And again, I'm not shitting on the Admirals. I'm not saying it's not, but we'll get into their role in things later. But think about it. When you hear Admiral, when you hear Yonko, it doesn't, Yonko strikes fear into the hearts of people. Whoa, you can't roll up on that territory. It's run by Ianko. You don't hear that from the Marines. You don't. Oh, you might run into an admiral, and yeah, they can command large fleets, but that's a Yonko. You saw even Green Bull, an admiral, respond to Shakes. Whoa, bro, bro, bro. Won't want no smoke with them. Won't want no smoke with them. Yes, we've seen people respond and run from admirals, but typically it was either because they were significantly weaker or it was because it wasn't the time. Do Flamingo, did he run from Kuzan? Not really. But he was shitting his pants when it came to Kaido. What is it said about it? In the New World, you either join a Yonko or you fight a Yonko. And most people ain't trying to fight a Yonko. So they fall subservient to the imperial power of the Yonko. Germa tried to join. They were already part of the world government, technically. But they wanted the power of a Yonko. With that, we can reclaim the North Blue. They weren't allying with other nations. They weren't saying, "Hey, we need an admiral sent over here so we can do." No, they said, "Yo, we need a Yonko." Weapons factories and such. The world government even knows. They realize, yeah, we can't let two Yonko meet. If the admirals were so in this grand position, why is it that everything focuses on the Yonko? For pirates, for pirate captains, for most infamous, influential, you can say most powerful pirates on the seas. Why? Why, when Newgate fell, the New World went into chaos? Why? Why is it such a big thing when Kaido and Lin are stripped of the title of Yonko? Admirals too got filled within 2 years with the quickness. And it said that they got stronger. The Marines, the Navy. Think about it, guys. Moving on. 3, hockey. As far as we know, and I know Mr. Moore says Teach doesn't have Conqueror's Hockey, but as far as we know, every single Yonko has Conqueror's Hockey. Every single Yonko in a lot of ways is superior in haki usage. Now that's not a guarantee. That's not saying Sakazuki can't be better in certain ones. That's not saying Borsalino. That's not saying that the Admirals are trash when it comes to hockey. But hockey is what willpower. And again, the Admirals are cap. We've only heard again. Sakazuki may have Conqueror's hockey. Clearly, see that Green Bull does not. Only Sengoku has had Conqueror's hockey. He was Fleet Admiral. Every Yonko that we know so far has had Conqueror's hockey. Yonko have a lot of times extreme armaments hockey. Now we've seen the Admirals have advanced techniques, so don't get it twisted. It doesn't mean the Admirals don't have things like future sight when it comes. But a lot of the Admirals, a lot of the Yonko have extreme levels of observation hockey. So they have extreme levels in all of them. A lot of them do. Not all of them. Not all on the same level either. And then, even though this isn't the point, but just suppose people say want to bring up about the devil fruits and things of that nature. Yeah, but at that level, that doesn't really matter because people want to check, oh, the powerful logis, and I'm not trying to shit on it, but that doesn't matter. When considering the fact of Shanks doesn't even have a devil fruit, he's a Yonko. Newgate had arguably the most powerful paramecia in the entire world. Teach has one of the most powerful logias and arguably the most powerful paramecia in the world. Lin has a stupidly broken devil fruit with it. One of the most powerful paramecias. Kaido, mythical Zoan. Luffy, mythical Zoan. Buggy has a ridiculous paramecia. Then you had characters like Goldie Roger. Straight out hockey. Dark King Silver's Raider, even though he was under Roger, but you get the point. He was Yonko level. Straight up hockey. You had a Golden Line Shiki, one of the most powerful devil fruits. So that Admiral advantage over most people doesn't apply to the Yonko because the Yonko have the crazy devil fruits as well, sometimes possibly even crazier, and they have stupid powerful hockey. They have stupid powerful willpower. In order to attain the position of a Yonko, your willpower has to be immense and extreme. We see what, in order for Luffy to finally become a full-fledged, bona fide, acknowledged Yonko, we see how far his hockey game had to go. I'm not saying everybody got to be Luffy, but seriously, you saw what Kaido and Lin were bringing to the table. We see what Shanks just did in chapter 1055. Come on now. What did Teach remark about Luffy back in Impel Down? Oh, your hockey's grown. We don't know that that's the criteria for an admiral. Again, they're not weak. They're not trash with the hockey game. But nowhere in the Admiral Handbook does it say your hockey game has to in order to be a Yonko and compete for the title of Pirate King. What did Kaido say? He said, "Oh, that's nice. You've awakened your devil fruit." But this is also a shot at a kid and at a law, for example, right? Devil fruit don't cut it. He said Roger ran the stage without a devil fruit. He ran it with hockey game, his hockey game. So Luffy, you don't have to get your hockey game up, young blood. Luffy had to develop Future Sight with Katakuri and further develop it with Kaido. Had to develop his Armor's hockey game and had to develop his Conqueror's hockey game. As well as Awaken. Just to compete. Look at what all that Luffy has now. All three types of hockey, not nearly maxed out, but highly proficient. And an Awakened Mythical Zone. Just to become a Yonko. I don't care what anybody says, Kaido's clearly Awakened Mythical Zone. We see Conqueror's hockey, one of the best in the game. Has Future Sight. World's strongest creature, Yonko. Lin. Probably the best durability, even above Kaido in the game. She's barely ever gotten marked. It took Law and Kid to go all out in a combo just to mark this woman up. It ain't even full-fledged defeat this woman. They just Battlefield removed her. And her Conqueror's hockey. Stupidly powerful with her Awakened Paramecia Devil Fruit. Yes, that shit is awakened. Like, bro, what are we talking about right now? Teach. Grab two of the most powerful devil fruits in the world. and defeat Marco, just to become a Yonko, as well as grab territories. Buggy had a whole, I mean, we can go into his story again. And all of that's based on the willpower, because all of them are like, yo, I'm going for Power King. Yo, I'm going to be the most powerful. I'm going to grab the title. That will. Admirals cap out. Yonkos don't. Moving on. Number 4, the nature of a Yonko. We've talked about parts of it. Again, they're an emperor. They run territories. Their hockey is immense. Their will is immense, right? They literally control parts of the world. Let me underline, bolden, and italicize that. They literally control parts of the world. The admirals help maintain an order. That's not comparable. The Yonko literally are world figures. They are world players. The Admiral are not. The Admirals are not. They play the role of knights on the chessboard, while the Yonko are kings and queens. It's not even a competition. The nature of a Yonko is to be a force of nature. Admirals are war machines, sure, they're powerful as fuck. But the nature of the Yonko is they're not supposed to fall. They're supposed to remain for decades. While you can replace admirals, you ain't really replacing Yonko. Someone has to prove themselves. And they have influence in the underworld. They have literal ties to the economic sphere, the political sphere, the social sphere, the cultural sphere. They literally help move the world. When Yonkos move, the world begins to shake. It's as if the world government starts ratcheting up. That's what you have to compare it to. Competitors, rivals to the world government itself. It's not even comparable, dog. Number 5, what the Yonko represent. The Yonko represent power personified. They represent influence, which is a part of power. They represent authority again in their own way. They represent independent authority. You see, have you noticed that pretty much every other nation has kings and such? And I'm not saying that the territories under Yonko don't have those, but the Yonko, an emperor supersedes a king. They do. If these kingdoms, if these nations were so, oh, they would be able to compete for themselves. That's why the world government's even a thing, because they're like, yo, we need protection. Protection from who? Oh, we need protection from pirates and stuff. They can't stand it. So they have the world government. So it's an entire system and machine that's massive. That's a Leviathan. The Yonko, with their own strength, their own crew strength, their own fleets, and whatever, can just come and say, we're overturning that shit. What y'all gonna do about it? The Yonko represent independent empires that influence the entire world, both the light and the dark, both the above ground and the underworld. Lin Lin had a tea party, summoned all the emperors, well, most of them, because I believe Shanks is, but that's a fellow Yonko, so that's a whole different story. But most of the big players in the underworld, they got the summons, they went. They got the summons, they went. Because a Yonko asked for it. And because if you don't go, well, what's the repercussions? She can find out things about you anywhere. She knew about Sanji's ties in the East Blue with Red Leg Zev and the Baratier. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous amount of information network. Like, how does anybody even find that shit out? Ties with the Vinsmoke. That's ridiculous amounts of power. It's not quite Big News Morgan's in the information game, but Big News Morgan's also showed up. And I've done a video talking about the power of big news movements, which is immense. It's the Yonko represent also stability in their own way, for the most part. Now it's an age with the new age of chaos that's being, because you have four Yonko honestly compete. No longer are these the old head Yonko with the former Rocks Pirates of Newgate, Linlin, and Kaido. These young bloods, because they're all relatively young. Oh no, they're pushing the chips to the table of freedom, and even Shanks, who was the fulcrum, is literally now saying it's time back. It's time then, Beckman. We're going for the One Piece. Number 6, the rise to the top. And I'm not gonna say it was the easiest thing for the Admirals to rise, but Smoker rose to the title of Vice Admiral relatively unabated. Kobe's become a captain in Marines like that. It's, yeah, get skilled, yeah, achieve a few things, but as opposed to Ianko, we saw the hell Luffy literally went through time and time again. Buggy had to Machiavellian, same thing with Teach. They had to Machiavellian scheme their way to the top. Shanks, Hawkeyes, and God knows what else. The former Rocks Pirates in Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. Big Mem, Charlotte Linlin, and 100 Beast / King of the Beast, Kaido. Kaido was the story of the carp becoming the dragon. They had to fight their way to the top. They had to battle, they had to clash, they had to conquer all these other pirates. Had to crush dreams, had to have a throne wars kind of situation on their way to the top, man. First you'll need the money, then you'll get the power, then you'll get the women. That was in Scarface, by the way. Tony Montana. But yeah, first you'll get the money, then you'll get the power. You'll get the influence. You'll beat, then you'll become. The rise to the top. I'm hoping I'm making this as simple as possible why the Yonko are superior to Admiral. Their paths aren't even comparable. Like, it's almost like the Admirals like given, either they had or they were like given their devil fruits or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even know how they got their devil fruits. They just got them. And they're proficient. So, of course, it just seems like it's just a power-based position. And while the Yonko, yeah, power is a big, but like you see in the case of a Buggy, of a Luffy, of a Teach, because we don't know about Shanks, we saw how difficult it was for them to come up. We saw, what people that they had to leapfrog. Luffy literally defeated four Shichibukai, technically. Well, Buggy wasn't one at the time, but he defeated Buggy, who's Buggy's the present Emperor himself. He's the present Yonko himself. Defeated Rob Lucci. They don't even know about it now, the whole situation. But, like, we saw the path. We saw the feats that Luffy had to do. Like, come on, bro. Feats. What are the Admiral feats? I want to know. Because Ona ain't showing shit. Moving on. Number 7. The nature of power. I've mentioned it time and time again. The influence. The might. The persuasive techniques. The information. I'm not going to just rehash it. But just the very nature of power. The Admirals don't have that. They have to fall in line. Like Sakazuki, what is this? They're relying on it. Admiral, the Yonko don't go by that. The fact is they can go anywhere they want to, and no one can tell them otherwise. The only ones who can, okay, the Marines can try. Marines don't even send the Admirals towards them. Greenbow, all I'm going to capture Straw Hat Luffy. Luffy was chilling. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei were chilling. No one was invading Wano. What did Greenbow say? Well, Kaido was there. I wasn't going to Wano. Sakazuki, yeah, we got to be careful. We don't know what manpower they got in Wano. Or we're not invading Topland. People were safe in Topland because Linlin there. Bartolomeo, who's under Yonko now, burning down, Shanks' flag. Shanks said, hey, we can't let that slide now, can we? Luffy, claiming Fishman Island for his own. Lin said, oh, so we got this young upstart. All right, grandson. All right, you want to try? All right, I'll see you in the new world. Come on, young man. And I jokingly said she got a little wet from the internet process. Kind of like, oh, y'all were playing little power games when he said that about Kid and Law. Where he's like, oh, Luffy, you want to challenge? Oh, whoa, no. Come on, we gatekeeping. Come on, let's see what you can do. Shanks, oh, we'll meet Luffy one day. You know when he's ready. Teach. You ain't ready, young man. You gotta actually amass some shit to be a young, a fifth emperor. What is that? Nah. We don't acknowledge you, but we acknowledge you now because Luffy's arrived, right? Number 8, the function of an admiral. Now, I've mentioned about being a war machine, right? That is what they are. They're also leaders of potentially fleets. You know, they go and they handle things. But at the end of the day, they're just servants to the celestial dragons. Which is why, again, even though he's a coon and a sellout, Garp was on the money with this one. Where he was like, I'm not becoming an admiral because I'm not taking direct orders from the Tenryubito. Look at how Borsellino showed up on Sabaody because of Sir Charles getting, wrecked, getting punched. Wasn't for anything else. Wasn't that all these pirates were here and da da da. No, it was because Luffy punched Sir Charles, right? Now they do have some freedom, but Sakazuki, have we ever seen Sakazuki? Oh, he did go after Teach. But other than that, Sakazuki's not. They don't leave Marine HQ too often. Think about that. Versus the Yonko, Kaido, when he wanted to, he could, set sails. Even though he was mainly in Wano, he could set sails. Same thing with Linlin. Or they can send their folks out to do. And you could say that the Admirals have a similar power as far as the dictation, but they can't just send out fleets of Marines just on a whim or on their own thing. Typically, they're going rogue. They can be disciplined. They can be, stripped. And even Kuzan, he's like, I can do things without being a Marine, even though he's technically probably part of Sword. But he's like, he can move freely now that he's no longer an admiral. With as powerful as he was, he still couldn't do as he desired, which goes back to the whole aspect of freedom. The admirals are not free, just like Cypherpole Agent Zero isn't free. We saw that with I forget what's his name, but he mentioned that when about X Drake, he's like, man, you can actually do things freely, even though Drake is technically a Marine. Right now, he's serving as a pirate. So because he's a pirate, he can do as he pleases. You saw that the CP0 agent had to go sacrifice himself in that battle between Kaido and Luffy. Number 9, the nature of the pirate world. The very nature of the pirate world will lead a Yonko to be superior to an admiral. Here's what I mean. It's a battle for supremacy. Even in our world, with the golden age of pirates, there were some who rose to the top because whether it be the actual act of piracy, which is theft and robbery on the high seas, whether it be in the case of like a Doflamingo or a Sir Crocodile where they took over nations, like the Shichibukai were pseudo Yonko, which is why the Shichibukai system was even really a thing, because the Shichibukai system, alongside the Navy HQ, was able to combat the Yonko, was able to balance out the power. And the Gorosei understood this, right? The nature of the pirate world is that anybody could really become a pirate. Not everybody becomes a Marine. And you have to follow that structure, you have to follow that order, more or less relative. But the pirate world, you get to decide who you are. And since you get to decide who you are and since if you don't make the cut, you don't rise to the top rings. Boom. Now you can say that the admirals, yeah, not everybody made the cut, but there's some vice admirals that if the admirals fell in battle, God forbid, in their case, right, they could replace an admiral. Yonko falls. Somebody has to take the spot. You don't just get a new Yonko every day of the week. They literally have reigned over the seas for decades. Shanks, we don't know what happened before, but Newgate, Kaido, and Linlin literally reigned for at least 2 decades on the seas. Shanks has been going at it for 6. We just got a new, onslaught of Yonko and Teach and Luffy and Buggy. But they all were rising within the last 2 years. Think about it. Shanks just 6 years ago, and Luffy, Buggy, and Teach just within the last 2 years. It took you 20 years for new players in the game. The Admirals, they don't go anywhere anytime soon, but we saw how easy it was for them to replace Kuzan and Sakazuki. They did a world military draft. And you have a brown pig. You have a pink rabbit. You got this dude who's Black Horse. Whoever this fuck his dude is. I mean, the way he's named, they sound like he on that kind of Admiral level time too. You know what I mean? You had a dude like Garp who turned down a position. Think about anybody turning down a Yonko position. Come on now. I'm just saying, man. Like it's the nature of the pirate world is too chaotic without the Yonko. It gets wild. You got guys like Kid and Law who aren't even Yonko, who are becoming players. You got guys like Capone who was the Don of Dons in the West Blue. A dude who was the Don of Dons in other series, in other worlds, he himself would be a Yonko. But because of the prestige of the Yonko, a Capone isn't a Yonko. Kid doesn't have a crew nor the territories or influence to be a Yonko. Law, we already know the heart, and everybody's come around to the hard pirates being trash. Ain't a Yonko, even with the 3 billion berry bounty. It's just the nature of the pirate world dictates that the Yonko will have to be superior to the admirals. And finally, the nature of evolution. I alluded to this about the rise to the top, but the admirals eventually cap out. They do. The Yonko keep growing in power with age, unless they are in a Newgate situation where they become sick. As far as we know, Lin was more powerful than ever at 68. Kaido was more powerful than ever at 59. I mean, Odin alluded to it. Kozuki Odin, he said, hey, yo, Kaido, within 20 years, you better get ready. You better grow in strength and power. And it seemed like he developed his devil fruit far more than when he was fighting Odin. So that in of itself. Luffy, again, we saw he's went through the ringer more than once. We saw that he's been on death's door so many times. Hell, Zoro's not even a Yonko, but we saw his path. I did a video while they were going, him and Luffy are going to be the most powerful pirates in One Piece history. Right? Shanks, I mean, come on, man. We see what Shanks brings to the table. And I'm telling y'all, Buggy's done fucking came up. I mean, the story of Teach should just tell you something, right? The nature of evolution. Again, this video, I might have sounded repetitive, but I wanted to hit every angle and every point. That the Yonko were designed to be these indomitable forces. Sure, they can be defeated. But to take down a Yonko is not just to take down an individual. It's to literally take down an entire empire. Which is why the world government doesn't just casually step in. And been wondering like, yo, you could have stopped them from being, but they actually fulfill a void, a necessary void, because it should tell you something. The fact that even though you have these powerful admirals, vice admirals, even Cypherpole Aegis Zero, even Cypherpole, you have the powerful Gorosei, and even the fact that you need pirates to help you run the world says something about the nature of the world. The fact that there are powerful nations like a Wano, like a Elbath that don't come to heal, says something. Kaido reigned over Wano. The world government has been wanting Wano for 8 centuries. You understand the ramifications of something like that. The world government has to use underhanded dealings to deal with some of these nations, like an Elbath. They can't just all willy-nilly. You trying to tell me you can't send an admiral to conquer Elbath? What's going on? What's going on? Gets you to think, doesn't it? But Ianko don't have that problem. Nations are like, yeah. Powerful pirates, yeah. People fall in line with the Yonko. From the charisma to the might to the freedom, because they see potentiality rather than subjugating themselves to the celestial dragons. This is the last point. Emu and the celestial dragons are the huge thing. The Yonko are the counterbalance to them, even if they don't intend to be, because of the nature of power, because nature abhors a vacuum. The Yonko fill that vacuum. You can call them the necessary evil. You can call them the necessary good. It doesn't matter. You can just call them necessary and vital. For now. Until Luffy and his generation overturns the system. The world government create the Yonko. The world government use the admirals, but they created the Yonko. By their very existence, the Yonko had to arise. If the military, think about it like this. If the military was separate from the celestial dragons, you don't have a Yonko rising. You'll have a few great pirates, but you don't have the Yonko. The Yonko are innately a system that opposes the world government by its very nature. They might not go out of their way to do it, but their very nature, it balance, and thus you have the balance of the world, the yin and the yang. Because without the Yonko, the celestial dragons are in check. Without the Yonko, the world government would just conquer everything. But the Yonko were like, nah, fam. Y'all can come try us. Y'all can come try to get this smoke. And if it's not one Yonko, let 2 Yonkos band together. Let 3 Yonko, let all 4 Yonko band together. World government cannot survive if all 4 Yonko come together, which is what will happen at the end of the series. Luffy will be the leader and the Pirate King. But just like what happened probably in the Void Century, but there was probably betrayal with Imu-sama and more, and we can get into the theory and speculation, but Joy Boy, I believe, is the original Pirate King. I really do. I think there have been probably, we talk about Roger. I call Rocks the Pirate King before the Pirate King. So I think that every so often there has been a Pirate King, right? So with that being said, with the Yonko literally potentially overturning the world government, they must innately be superior to the admirals who are subservient and who are servants of the world government. That's just from a narrative perspective, from a logical perspective, from a militaristic perspective, from a strategic perspective, from a business perspective, an economic perspective, a social perspective, a cultural perspective, a political perspective. Every way you want to look at it, the Yonko are innately superior to the admirals. Unexpected one to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on the matter. Tell me your views. If you think I'm mistaken, if you think I miss anything, let me know down in the comment section below. And yeah, till next time, have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Peace.